This is the Couples Corner. The Couples Corner. This is the Couples Corner. With Team Evans. This is the Couples Corner. The Couples Corner.
The Couples Corner with Team Bevins of I Still Do Ministries every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is another episode, and today you will get some good information, some great nuggets, and some tools to strengthen your relationship. The Couples Corner with Team Bevins. Party people, how y'all feeling tonight, man? Welcome to the Couples Corner. This is Team Bevins. I am Marcus, and this is my wonderful wife,
Sheree.
All right. And welcome to the Couples Corner. And so tonight, y'all, after we pray, we're going to jump into this conversation. And we need y'all to help us out with this so that we can make sure that everybody hears from multiple people so that we can make sure that everything is good. So tonight, we are talking about fighting fair. We're going to deal with what that is, how it works, the whole nine. So right after we pray, we're going to jump into that whole situation. All right. So let's pray. Father, we thank you for another opportunity to gather together in the Couples Corner. We thank you, Lord, for every person that will be a part of this conversation. We thank you for everything that you have given us, every piece of information. Oh God, we thank you, Lord, that all will be done well. We thank you that it will be done decently and in order. We thank you, God, that because of this, people will be better, that their relationships will be stronger, and that everyone would be able to survive, flourish, and cause their relationships to be better than what they were before they were a part of the Couples Corner. So we thank you, we praise you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so let's talk about fighting fair. We need to deal with what fighting fair is. And we also need to make sure that we understand how to achieve this, what we need to do, how we need to do it, and how we can make sure that it's effective. So now, first things first, if you are in a relationship, if you are married, if you are engaged, if you have been in this relationship longer than a couple of weeks, you're going to have some disagreement. And so fighting is not necessarily physical and abuse and all of that. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about disagreement and how you handle disagreement, how you handle the things that you go through, and you know the challenges that you see in your relationship. And so, how do we achieve fighting fair? How do we achieve knowing that we have a disagreement, knowing that we don't see eye to eye on an issue, on a topic, on a subject, and we got to get past this, we got to get through this, we have to get over this, whatever the scenario is. But in that process of us not agreeing, how do we fight fair? Because you're talking about two individuals that have two separate mindsets, who have grown up thinking and being and doing whatever, their logic and way of things has been for however many years you've been living. And now you are together with someone, and you have to make sure that the two of you work together and you're able to allow your relationship to stay strong, for you all to stay together while you are dealing with your issue or your disagreement, or whatever the situation is. So how can we fight fair? That's a question. My first thing that I would say is you have to ask yourself, is this a character flaw or is this a spirit? And a lot of people don't want to do that because, if it's a character flaw, it's not new, because it's a part of their character and it's been there. Now, you may have overlooked it, you may have tolerated it, you may have done a lot of things, and now you're at a point or a place where you don't want to tolerate it anymore. You're at a point or a place where it irritates you too much and you feel like it should change. But if this is who they have been from the beginning, is the problem them or you? But also, if it's a spirit, then should you be dealing with the person or dealing with the spirit? Because some stuff is not, just natural things, not just something that somebody is just randomly choosing to do and all of that, but it could be a spirit. And if it's a spirit, then you need to be able to handle that in the proper manner so that it can, so that it can be rectified, it can be fixed. Because if it's spiritual, it can be fixed if you're equipped and you know what to do with a spirit that doesn't belong in your relationship or in your house or, in your spouse or in you, if you're the person that recognizes that it's you. But you have to identify what the problem is. Is it a character flaw or is it a spirit? That's the first thing that I think has to happen. After you identify if it's a character flaw or if it's a spirit, then you know how to approach it. But if you just go flying off and you want to deal with people and you want to, while them out, you want to do all of these things, all because things are not going the way you want them to go, or you're not liking what you're seeing, what you're hearing, whatever the case is, it still turns out to be something that is not good. So at the end of the day, how do you get past that? How do you, grow for that or through that and be able to deal with it? Because disagreement is natural when you're dealing with more than just yourself. And sometimes you disagree with yourself. But you have to be able to get through that without tearing your relationship apart. So how can we do that? How can we not tear our relationship apart because we have a disagreement? How can we learn how to fight fair so that we're not damaging our mate, we're not damaging our relationship, we're not throwing the whole thing away, all because of a situation that could be fixed, that could be rectified? So, of course, this is a dialogue and we want to hear from you. So for those of you who are listening on Mix Station Live, feel free to call us at 1-855-493-6499. And for those of you who are on social media with us, you can see it right on your screen, the number. Feel free to call us, or you can respond here with your comments or your questions that you have. So let's jump into it. So there, in that type of scenario where we're talking about, is it a character flaw or is it a spirit? How should somebody handle that?
So the first thing is, I think what we talked about last week for either one of them is that you need to take the emotions out of it.
Beautiful.
So if y'all have been working on what we talked about last week,
because you had homework,
then we're almost there. So you take the emotions out of it, and then you deal with whatever and like he said, we're using fight fair loosely because we don't really mean fight, but your disagreements, your conflicts, your misunderstandings, your arguments, for lack of a better word, is what we're talking about. So if you take the emotions out of it, as we talked about last week, then I believe that we can move forward in the fairness of it. And the fairness is dealing with the content of it.
Good. So, all right. So let's, I got a couple things, to throw out into this, and of course, we want to hear from you guys on what it takes, and then we also have some tools that you can use to help you deal with your conflict a little better. But one thing, this is always an issue, because again, emotions can get involved and cause this to be something that can be more damaging than what it has to be. But you have to get to, the place where you deal with the issue without degrading the person. So if there's an issue on the table and you have to deal with it and you don't see eye to eye, you have to be able to talk about the issue and stay on topic. Because if you go off topic, it's so easy to throw everything into the equation that has ever happened since you've known the person, instead of staying on topic and getting to a resolve. It's so much more difficult to get to resolution if you get off topic. So if we're talking about why the trash didn't go out, and that's the issue, yes, and that's the issue on the table.
Let's talk about it.
So if we're talking about why the trash didn't go out, that's what we're dealing with. We have the disagreement. You have your view. I have my view. All of that. We are not going to get to a resolve if we start throwing in a bunch of other things, because now you give the person too much to digest. and you also give them, you know, too much to respond to. So if we're talking about the trash, how did the cable bill get in there? You know, if we're talking about the trash, then how did, you know, the way you responded or reacted to the children get into the equation? We're talking about the trash. So we have to be able to stay on topic if we want to get a resolution. If we go off topic, we open the door for this to become a finger pointing contest. Now it goes off of the actual issue and we start dealing with the people. Now we're talking about what you did or what you didn't do as an individual, or, you know, now, you know, subliminally you're going to start talking about somebody's parents, because now you're going to talk about their upbringing. You know what I mean? So for lack of a better terms, you're talking about somebody's mother, somebody's father without actually saying it. You know, I just know. I mean, I shouldn't have expected that from you, because that's just the way y'all were raised. That's just how y'all do over there where you come from. And you talking about my mother at this point. You know what I mean? So it's about to be early night. You about to go night. So it's a whole nother situation if you turn the table and you get off topic. So it's important that we're able to stay on topic. Whatever the issue is, address the issue, but still address the person like you love them. I could disagree with you, but I don't have to hate you. I could disagree with you, but I don't have to talk to you like you're nothing, like you're worthless. Your value doesn't change because I disagree with you. So we have to learn how to be able to do that effectively, because if not, then we're never going to get to the bottom of it. We're never going to get a resolve. We're never going to get, you know, to the resolution, because we'll be stuck in this one spot, and it'll turn from what we're talking about to who you talking to like that. And who do you think you are? And I'm not a child and all of this. And now we're so far off topic that we will never get this fixed. And now we've added so many other components that now we need counseling. All because the trash didn't go out. And that's where we started. We started about dealing with the trash, but we so far off topic, we need counseling now. And then now you got to go sit in front of a counselor and they say, so what's the problem? And then your first answer is, he ain't take the trash out. Now that's not counseling worthy. You see what I'm saying? But because the layers made everything turn into more than what it was. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why we have to be able to stay on topic. If we stay on topic, then we eliminate some of the things that, you know, could make this difficult. So how can we stay on topic? I know it seems like a crazy question, but how can we stay on topic when there's a disagreement? How can we stay on topic when we beefing? How can we stay on topic when we don't like something that the other person has done or didn't do?
And when you get off topic, who will communicate that? Which one of you will say, wait, we're getting off topic, or wait, let's go back. This is the issue at hand.
Right. That's important. Somebody has to stay level-headed in the scenario. Both people can't go flying off the deep end, because then you're not going to get anything. You're not going to get anything accomplished. You're not going to get anything resolved, because that's not going to be fruitful. It's not, or it's going to be the wrong fruit. That's what it'll do. But you have to be able to stay on topic. And like you said, somebody has to bring it back on topic. And truth be told, this is what we don't like to do, because, you know, everybody is always not receptive. But sometimes you might have to say, hey, you know what? We need to take a break from this, because this is getting out of hand. We need to stop this right here, and we'll come back to the topic. But right now, we going. This is going somewhere else, and it's not going to be helpful to our relationship, you know. And then you got to know yourself, because like you pushing some buttons that's going to make me want to respond in a manner that is not suitable for how I should be talking to my wife or to my husband or whatever. This isn't going to turn out well, because, you know, some people still got some ways that they, you know, trying to work on, and some people just not even working on. That's just, they like, that's who I am, that's how I am, and that's how I'm gonna be. But you got to know these things, and you got to help that. I also think too, before you start dealing with it, you have to be clear within yourself why you're upset, and ask yourself, is this worth the fight? Is this worth the fight? Because if we open this can of worms, you know, this can turn into something else. Because some people don't know how to stay on topic. Some people will always throw something else into the equation instead of staying on topic. You know, like we said, we brought up the issue of talking about trash. You know, this is about the trash. Why the trash didn't go out. You know, the trash day was today, and the trash didn't go out, and now the kitchen stink because there's some trash that's still in there because you didn't take it out. Now, instead of dealing with the issue, now we talking about, yeah, but did you say that when you didn't put gas in the car? Like, how did we get to the car, and how did we get the gas, and how do we get to a whole nother topic, a whole nother situation that we're not talking about now? If that was an issue, then that should have been a separate conversation that was handled as an individual situation, not brought in to be a pile on to this. We're talking about trash. Now you want to bring the gas in, and you say, yeah, well, I mean, ain't no point in me putting gas in the car if you ain't going to pay the car payment. Now we somewhere else. We done went from the trash to the gas to the whole car payment, and all of this could have been avoided by staying on topic. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be able to stay on topic, but we also have to count the costs. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we don't like to do that, but is it really something that you have to address? Now, I'm not saying, you know, avoid, but I'm saying when you address it, that's important. How you address it, that's important. But before you even get to addressing it, you have to address yourself to find out, is this worth the fight? Because if I bring this out, I cannot, this is what we got to know. I cannot control my wife's response to what I have to say. I only can control what I say and how I say it. I have no control over her response, just as she doesn't have any control over mine. So we have to count the cost that this thing got on my nerves, and I need to deal with it. But keep in mind, when I deal with it, they have a right to a response. You can't control their response. So we got to keep that in mind too. And honestly, how many of us do that? How many of us really take into account what the response could be or may be if we allow them their space to talk?
Okay, so if you have 64 tools for a successful relationship, fight fair is a topic in the book. It's on page 65. And I'm going to read something. I want to read this whole thing, but let me just pick some things. Let's start with fighting fair is not bringing up the past and things that are not relevant to this situation. Fighting fair is trying to get things resolved, not driving your point into the ground.
Good.
So when you're having a disagreement, you should be trying to look for a solution.
Right.
Okay? You cannot look for a solution or get a solution if you're talking about 18 other things, as Marcus said, that have happened, or bringing up all these things that are off topic. If you always think that you want to be solution oriented, then I think that when you're having your disagreements, arguments, conflicts, whatever you want to call it, then it will be more easy for you to stick with the topic so that you can get to the solution.
Right.
Because ultimately, if you have a point, yes, you will make your point within the conversation, but that is not the reason why you're having a conversation, is to continue making your point.
Right.
The reason why you're having the conversation is to get a result or to get a solution. And I think a lot of times we go into a conversation to get an answer that we want, but the solution may not always be the answer that you want.
Right. Yeah. Very true. And so, you know, keeping in mind that this doesn't turn into a who has the most stones. You know what I mean? Like, you know, because another problem is that we keep score, and we really shouldn't keep score. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. But we can't keep score because then we'll use that later. Because then we'll start to say, you know, you don't even have a right to say the stuff that you're saying to me because of all the things that you've done or all the things that you didn't do and all of these other things. You know what I'm saying? So that can turn into a completely different animal, you know, which would not be, again, beneficial to your problem or your relationship, because now we're taking things out of the context of where we really wanted to be and what we really wanted to get accomplished. So, you know, we have to be very conscious of what we say, how we say it, why we say it, the way that we say it. All of that matters, because if we're not careful, we will be offensive with a really good and a very valid point or topic that we're actually talking about. So, if we would be honest, sometimes we get off topic in our mind before we even get to all of the conversation. So that in itself can make everything even worse, because now something that we said, okay, we need to deal with this, or you said it to yourself. It ain't even so much we said, but I'm gonna address it. And you can't have a I don't care mentality when you're going to address it, because the goal is to get the thing resolved, not to make it worse. So if you're going into it saying, well, I don't care, they just gonna have to eat this, they're gonna have to deal with it, I'm addressing it, and whatever happens, where the chips fall, let them fall. You shouldn't even have a conversation, because you already going into it in a sense with the mentality of confrontation, not going in it with the mentality of fixing it, getting a resolve, finding a solution. So if your approach is going to be that, it's only going to make your situation worse. You know what I mean? And honestly, sometimes it's not even so much what you say as much as it's how you say it. So, you can't use degrading statements, and you can't use degrading tones. You got to be careful how you're talking to another adult, especially one that you say that you love, that's connected to you, that you say you want to spend the rest of your life with. Now, if I want to spend the rest of my life with you, you're connected to me, I love you, I have all of these feelings for you, I have all of this, adoration for you, and now I want to talk to you crazy. I want to wow you out because I got upset about something that we won't necessarily say that it was small, but in comparison to who you are to me, is it worth me presenting it to you in a manner that could cause friction between us versus me presenting it in a manner of, hey, this is a concern for me, or how can we get a better result, or how can we get, a different outcome with this, because when this happens, it makes me feel this way. When this happens, it makes me, do this. It sends me here, or whatever the case. So in those type of scenarios, in that type of situation, you have to make sure that you make sure that your presentation is very honorable, even though you're dealing with something that may be a little difficult. You can deal with a tough topic and still be gentle in your approach. You don't have to talk to your spouse like they somebody you ain't never seen before, or they just some random off the street that you just rolling up on, and you gonna wild them out, and whatever happens. You know what I'm saying? That's not the way that you want to. That's not the way that you want to approach it. So that's important. Now, another tool that we also need to use is take turns talking. You can't dominate the conversation. You got to take turns talking. It's supposed to be a dialogue. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I got an issue, I'm coming to you because I have the issue, and I need you to explain it to me, because something about this doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. So I need you to help me understand why or how or what. But how am I going to understand that if I do all the talking and I never give you space to answer? Because the reality is, it's very well possible that you just don't understand. There could be an actual valid reason that you just didn't get, or you didn't know, or you don't understand. And if you would allow space for the other person to be able to communicate, they could explain it to you, and then you would understand. But it's not going to be healthy, and you're not going to fairly fight if you are dominating the conversation and you're not giving any space for the person to respond, or to answer your questions, or to give you clarity on what seems to be so foggy. So, that's a point that we have to, really recognize and really give space to, that you got to take turns talking. You can't dominate it. You can't just, well, I'm a straighten this, I'm going to say everything I got to say. Well, then I'm going to forget how to answer, because you said so much in the beginning, and now we 25 minutes later and you still talking, and then you like, so what do you guys say? I don't know what to say at this point, because you didn't let me remember the first 7 questions you asked me. So you got to take turns talking. If not, then you're going to lead the conversation like, I asked all these questions, I only got one answer. Ask a question, get an answer, and then go to the next one.
All right, so for somebody like me, you got to write it down, because I got to say everything in my brain. Like just now, I had a lot of things I need to say, and he kept talking. So I can't even remember some of this stuff. But no, seriously, I think we need to listen. We need to hear. We need to hear. We need to listen. We need to understand. And then we need to, if we don't understand, we need to ask questions, and we need to respond. So, or we need to respond with asking the question so that we can get clarity. And in that, you both will be talking, so that one person won't just be dominating the whole thing. But a lot of times we're not listening to hear and to understand, or to even ask questions. Like I said, we're trying to driving your point. And if you really think about some of your conversations you've had with your spouse, that you have stated your point 1,000 times in a conversation, but when have you gotten any clarity, understanding, or resolution? But you stated your point.
Right.
Your point is this, that, and the third, but you have not gotten, or if the other person has said or has answered you or has tried to bring clarity, you haven't heard it because you still want to say my point is, or this is the reason why I'm talking, or so we really have to slow down with our communication when we're trying to resolve conflict, so that we can understand each other. And if we don't understand, we need to be able to ask a question to get understanding.
Right.
And not ask a question like, so tell me this, like, I don't know who acts like that. I just found that, got that off of TV.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
yes,
Exactly, right.
Just, you need to be able to ask a question. So just so I'm clear, this is what you're saying, or whatever. And yes, and be genuine and sincere with it. So going back to the book, we're on again, page 65 of 64 Tools for a Successful Relationship. And if you have any questions or comments, you can call in 1-855-493-6499. If you're with us on Facebook, you can please feel free to leave a comment or a question, and we will read it, and we will try to help you, or you will help us.
Right.
And if we can't help you, you know what we will do. We will not answer. We will send you to somebody who can.
Got that right.
So the book says, fighting fair is making sure that at the end of the fight, your mate is not damaged or hurt. And again, we're not talking about a physical fight, okay? For everybody who wants to put hands on each other, you need to
get some help.
Get help. That's what you need to do, and that's very serious. If you're touching your spouse, beating them up, banging them, pushing them, shoving them, grabbing them, jacking them up on the wall, whatever you're doing, you need to get help. And whoever is the victim of that, you need to find a way of escape. You need to leave. And for your safety, because there have been plenty of people that have died that didn't have to, if they would have just left, or they would have got help, or there has to be somebody you trust,
right? Somebody
that can help you. So again, it says fighting fair is making sure that at the end of the fight, your mate is not damaged or hurt. So these communications, conversations, conflicts are not getting resolved when you feel like, oh, you don't want. Words do hurt.
They do.
Let me say that again. Words do hurt.
And they hurt men.
They do.
And they hurt men. Men don't always share how much the words hurt, but words do hurt men. Go ahead. Sorry.
Again, I lose my thoughts when he does that. So, and even what's the thing? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That is false. Words hurt. Words cut. Words leave scars. Words leave stains, marks in your brain, in your heart.
Yeah.
So be very careful. Choose your words wisely. Listen to my favorite people out there. To my engaged people. They are my favorite people. Because you have the time now to say, my communication is not, we don't really communicate well. We don't really resolve conflicts well. And you have the time now to fix it, because saying I do does not fix it. And that's, maybe I need a t-shirt that says I do does not fix it. Saying I do does not fix it.
Right.
So if you are having an issue with your communication and you're engaged, now is the time to sit down and say, we can't do this. We can't go on like this. Not break up your relationship. everybody. Listen, don't be too literal with what I'm saying. Not break up your relationship, but fix it. Figure out how you're going to communicate, because there will be times that you need to communicate. Nobody has a perfect marriage. Nobody has a perfect relationship. And those of you out there that's like, oh, we don't, I'm scared of you. We do. We have a perfect relationship. We have the roses in this. I'm scared. I'm scared of you. Because I think every relationship is going to be tried and tested.
Definitely.
You won't even know the loyalty if you're never tested or tried. So I believe that while you're engaged, you need to deal with the fact that every time you have a conflict, they make you feel small. They make you feel like crap, or they bring up all the past conflicts you had for your whole 4 years that you've been together.
Right.
If that is a problem for you, then you need to deal with it now, because when you go down the aisle saying I do, it's not going to change it. And love doesn't change it. Many times we deal with our love and, we love God too, but we do many of things to him.
Yep.
We do many things to put Jesus back on that cross.
Yep.
And this whole weekend we talked about Jesus' resurrection and all of that. And today, many of us put him back on the cross.
Very true.
So there are so many things that we have to understand that, love is not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with the fact that conflict resolution is we're failing at it.
Right.
We're failing at it, and we're calling it fighting fair, but conflict, basically we're trying to solve conflicts in our relationships, and a lot of us are failing because we're not following some simple steps that can help us.
Right.
So it's not about your love. It's not about, when I say I do, for those of you who are engaged, that, yes, this is going to change. Stop thinking that. I do changes nothing. And if, and for a lot of y'all, some of y'all already living together, so I do ain't really changing too much, nothing.
Right.
But for those of y'all who not, that's all I do is going to change your residence. You're going to move in, and, you're going to find out some more stuff that you can't believe, or, you're going to deal with the same things. So right now you have the chance to fix the conflict, to resolve the conflicts, to fix it, figure out how you can communicate, figure out how all of this is about communication. We always say this, everything we talk about is about our communication with each other. It's just a different avenue of communication.
Right.
So you have to figure out how you're going to communicate without, as the book says, without your mate being damaged or hurt at the end.
Right.
Because that's not the goal. Because once we're dealing with one subject, and then once we speak out of our mouths and say things that we shouldn't, or go places we don't need to go when we're resolving this conflict, then we have damage and hurt to get over. Then we have, I didn't mean to say that. Then we have a whole another conversation or conflict that we have to resolve because we didn't take our emotions out of it.
Right.
We didn't stick to the subject. We didn't listen, hear them, and try to understand or ask questions if we don't understand. So now we have something else to deal with because we're speaking like we're talking to somebody in the street, or
right.
When you were in school or whatever it is. So this is not about love. This is not about how much you like each other or how long you've been together. It's about how you communicate and speak to one another.
Right.
And how do you go into this looking for a resolution, looking for a solution. We always want to talk, but what is the solution? Oftentimes now I say to people, okay, this happened, but what's the solution?
Right.
And it stops people in their tracks because everybody wants to tell their point. Everybody wants to say, well, wait a minute, we want to talk about, okay, for this year, for that month, we did X, Y, and Z. Okay, we know what happened, but what's the solution to this not happening again, since it's bothering the husband or the wife, or one of, the fiancés.
Yep.
The fiancés. The fiancés. So, y'all my favorite people because, y'all just have a chance, and there are plenty of us out here, not just Team Bevins, but there are plenty of married couples and married ministries in this day and age that are trying to help you. There are plenty of people on Facebook and Instagram and different social media that are trying to help people to have a better marriage. This thing does work.
It does.
If you work it. You know, it's not going to work if you don't put the work in, or if you go in thinking this is how it's going to be and never want to change. Everybody has to change and grow and mature as the years come. Right. So the way you handled your conflict, you know, and even if you talk about it as fiancés, even if you talk about it, the way you handle your conflict in your first year of marriage may not be the way you handle it in your 10th year.
Right.
There are some things that won't even matter to you in your 10th year. You'd be like, well, guess what? I'm not even going to deal with that. I'm just going to keep it moving. You know, there are some things that you will communicate about and it will take you 2 minutes and you'll have a solution, as opposed to in your first year when you communicated and it took you 2 years
right.
to get to that first year solution.
Yeah.
Because somebody's still working on that first year thing, and it's the 5th year, and we still saying, man, we've been dealing with this for 5 years. How do I know? Because I've said it before. And y'all know I always give you a real life example. I've said it before. Like, I cannot believe this. We talked about this in our first year. Why are we dealing with this now? It's frustrating.
Because we didn't actually deal with it.
Sure. That's your fault. So, talk about these words hurting men.
So, look, that's a reality. That's a reality, you know, and for a lot of men, our pride won't always allow us to speak up and say, your words hurt me. But the reality is, when you really think about it, and especially from a male perspective, things for men only hurt when it's close. So there's some things that somebody that you don't know can say that will mean nothing to you. It will run off your back like water on a duck's back. But the one that's closest to you, the one that you've been vulnerable with, the one that you've opened up your heart, that you have no walls up to, the things that they say will hurt you because it has to be intentional. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And one of the things too that we have to, you know, really like think about is, you know, is an apology enough to fix the harm that was done? Because sometimes after you've said what you said, you can't unsay it, and they can't unhear it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, people will try to, you know, sometimes say, well, you know how I get when I get mad, I say stuff I don't mean. You know, I don't know about that. Mm-hmm. I don't know about that. And if you are just saying stuff that you don't mean when you get mad, that would be a character flaw. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't be something that you're just randomly throwing out there and you just saying whatever because you're upset. Not to someone that you love. Now, nobody's saying that you won't be upset, that you won't disagree, or you won't, you know, dislike. But for you to just randomly be throwing out anything, and then your rebuttal to that is, well, you know how I get when I get upset. I just say stuff I don't really mean. You just should have never pushed me to that point, and this would have never happened. That's not healthy. You know, and so at the end of the day, like we said, men, we naturally will utilize our pride. We'll naturally utilize the things that we, you know, our strength and all of that. But men get hurt by the words that their wife says to them. And that's a reality. You know what I mean? And just because as men we've been taught not to show emotion, not to whine, not to complain, because that's been taught to us in childhood, that's a sign of weakness. But I don't have to do that with my wife. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to. There are no walls up. I don't have to protect myself from her, or at least I'm not supposed to. So, you know, to somebody out in the street, it might not have that type of value, because theoretically who you are doesn't mean that much to me that what you say could hurt me. But for a person that is supposed to be connected to me, my rib, the person that I've actually put my heart in their hands, for them to ball it up and throw it on the ground and stomp on it, that hurts. So we really do have to fight fair. We can't just, you know, wow people out and, you know, do all of that, because that's not healthy. Now here's a question that you know, I don't know how many people. And for the record, he wasn't talking about me, because I speak to him in love. Hey man, y'all know I'll be giving them real life situations. This is not a real life situation. Okay. So now here's a tough question. Can you ever lose? Because, you know, most fights, most arguments is about you being right. It's about you winning. You feel like you're right. You feel like what you think, what you feel, what's been going on, and all of that. You have a position that you're standing in, that you're holding, and you're not moving from there. But can you be wrong? Can you lose? You know what I'm saying? Because some people you're never going to be wrong, and you're never going to lose.
Yes.
So
yes.
Where does that leave? Where does that leave
yes.
the fight?
I'm just going to keep saying yes.
Where does that leave the fight if you are never going to be wrong and you're never going to lose? Where does that leave the fight?
Yes. Can anybody call in and answer that? Woo! Call in, please. 1-855-493-6499. Because in a fight, we're going to say a conflict resolution, a disagreement, an argument. You are not always going to win.
No.
You are going to state your case, you are going to state your issue, and you are going to get a resolution. And the resolution is not always in your favor. And that's what I said earlier, that sometimes we don't want to listen, hear, and understand because we're so busy driving our point home, as the book says, but we're also wanting to hear what we want to hear. Because in the case of taking out the trash, you want to hear that your spouse is just going to take it out and not give you any rebuttals to why they can't take it out or why they're not going to take it out. Now, if they say they're not going to take it out, that's not what you want to hear. You want to hear that, okay, I understand you're upset about the trash, the kitchen stinks, and I'm going to take it out. But what if it's another way? You may have lost this. Not saying it's right.
Right.
But the resolution doesn't always come that quickly. Mm-hmm. So, yes, some of times, not me. I don't think I do. But sometimes it's hard to understand that, in the solution, you may not win your way all the time, but there will be a solution that works. So if the solution works, why is it so hard, or why are we so upset about it not being our way?
Right.
We have a comment, and the comment is, it's easy to get off topic when prior issues haven't been resolved. And that's very true.
Very true.
Like we just talked about, when you're still dealing with something from a first year issue in the fifth year, then yes, because you're just going to talk about everything that happened in year 2 to 5 after that issue started, and then still not resolve the issue.
And the reality is, more than likely, you were waiting for an opportunity to bring that issue back up. It's like, when is a good time to bring that back up? And so since we're talking about issues, well, what about this too? You know what I mean? Since we got issues on the table, let's just put them all out there. Or, or if this is a sour area for me, then I want to put this one out there. We ain't got to talk about the one that you sour about. I just want to put this one out there because it still bothers me. And even with the okay, so like, we're talking about, we use the trash as the issue of the evening, and so the trash is the thing, and so 9 times out of 10 it's going to be the wife asking the husband, why didn't you take the trash out? It stinks, and blah blah blah, all Absolutely. Of that, right? And so in that scenario, wives, here's a question for you. Understanding that he is the one who does it, or generally does it, or what have you. But if his response was, well, when you smelled that it stink, why didn't you just take it out?
It's not my job. That's your response. It's not my job.
So, because...
It's not my job.
Because now... because now we have a whole nother situation on the table. Because what it was is, the challenge was that the kitchen stank, but the real problem was it stinks because the trash didn't go out. So the result of the trash not going out caused a stench in the house. But the root of it was that the trash didn't go out. And we're clear on that. Now, in your question, how are we, why didn't you take the trash out? And his response is, I forgot. But you've been home for 3 hours prior to me getting here. So you just been in here smelling this without fixing it because you were waiting for me to come and fix it.
It's your job.
You see what I'm saying? So, and not saying that it's not his job or it's not something that he could rectify, but if that were his response, how well would that go over? Because if he brought about the aspect of, because if we're a team, you know what I mean, and you picking up the slack that I dropped or what have you, you know I didn't intentionally do it because it's 52 weeks in a year, and for the other 51, I took the trash out. You know what I'm saying? This one time I didn't, had an additional result that came with it that caused it to stink. But in return, I'm saying, knowing that I generally would take it out, you couldn't take it out to get rid of the smell or to do anything. So we're just going to stay here and wait for me to do it. If that was his response, then where does this situation go then?
Okay, Wise, we need y'all to answer. Call in 1-855-493-6499 or leave your comment on Facebook. Where does this go? Where does this go from there? And it could be anything. Your issue may not be the trash.
Right, yeah. We just
but whatever your issue is, I would like to hear from you. Because it's not my job.
And the phone lines are ringing. Somebody got something to say. So that's a reality, because it's a conversation. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not prison. It's a conversation, and there's a disagreement, and we're having the conversation because we're trying to figure out how or why, this happened, or how to fix it, or whatever the case. You know what I mean? But it's a conversation, so that means it's dialogue. That means there's an exchange. You say something, I say something, or I say something, and then you respond, whatever the case. But it's an exchange. So, that's how it works. That's how it works. These things are real. So, ladies, we need to hear from you. For those of you who are on social media with us, feel free to type your response there. How would you handle that type of scenario? How would you handle that type of situation? Of course, understanding that he's the one who takes the trash out. He's the one who typically makes sure that happens or whatever. And now he didn't take it out that particular time. And when he didn't, it left a stench in the house. And when you address it, his response is, why didn't you take it out when you smelled that it made the kitchen stink or what have you? Because it's now 3 hours later, and you just left it here for me to get or to do. How you responding to that, ladies?
Yes, anybody. Not just ladies.
Hello?
Anybody.
Hello?
All right.
Hello?
So, caller,
Yes, hi.
how are you?
Do you hear me?
Yes. How would you handle
Good.
that?
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So I just have a question.
Okay.
So we were talking about it's not good to always bring up, like, basically you want to stay on topic, right? And which I do agree with. So if we're talking about trash, right? So we're saying that, okay, you didn't take out the trash today. But if it's always that the person is not taking out the trash, like say they didn't take it out last week or the week before, or maybe like a month ago, and then you try to bring that to that person's remembrance, like, hey, you didn't take out the trash today, you didn't do it last month, you didn't do it then, as a constant reminder, it becomes frustrating.
Agreed.
So, you tend to bring up those other times because it's similar. It's in the same family. It's in the same, you know what I mean?
Right. Definitely understand that. And so in that scenario, it's relative.
Yes.
It's relative. That's not like we're dealing with the trash and now you're talking about an oil change. This is still relative because it's still about the trash, and this is now just explaining that this is a deeper situation because it's not just this time. Yes, we're talking about this time, but if we just take the last 6 weeks, there have been 2 or 3 other instances in the last 6 weeks that this same scenario happened. So how can we fix this? And I think that sometimes that may be what doesn't happen, that it becomes a question of how can we fix it versus it becoming a a pointing thing of, well, you didn't, and you didn't this time, and you didn't this time, and you didn't this time. More so of, how can we get to the resolve? How can we fix this? How can we make sure that next week we don't have this same problem? You know what I mean? What are we going to do differently as a unit?
Yeah.
Because this is what we're doing right now isn't working. We're not getting results this way. You know, we done missed the trash man, 3 other times in the last month, and now we get ready to get fines because we got trash sitting outside that didn't get picked up. Now the cats then tried to open up the bags, and you know what I mean? It spills over and becomes something more. So for us to fix this as a family, as a unit, how can we fix this so that we don't run into this same situation again? I don't think that that's bringing up something that's not related. That's still connected to this same situation.
And that relativity is good, but if it gets to the point where something else happens and then we go to the trash, so if something else happens, oh, you left your shoes on the step and I tripped over them. See, that's what I'm saying. Just like the trash. So now that's where our frustration comes into it. That's where we're adding so many things and we're not going to get anything solved or accomplished. So I think that communicating about all the things that are relative are good, but keep in mind keeping that frustrating, because I heard you say it gets frustrating. So keeping the frustrating voice out of it, but just dealing with the emotion and keeping it all relative. So if it's all trash, we're good. But if it's the shoes on the steps and then we go back to the trash because we never dealt with the trash, that's where we go wrong.
Right.
Right, that's a good point. And then also, too, you guys were right on it. Like, I feel like if I'm coming to you and I'm talking to you about a situation, don't pick that time to talk to me about, in turn, instead of you're answering what I'm saying or trying to address the issue that I have with you, don't pick that time to talk to me about something that you've been feeling 2 months ago when you should have just addressed that 2 months ago.
Right. Yeah.
Correct.
I agree. It happens, but it shouldn't.
Absolutely.
It shouldn't happen, but it does. And sometimes that's a diversion. You know, it's to even the playing field, because the pressure is on me. You bring up a topic and that pressure is on me about what I didn't do, where I dropped the ball, where I fell short, or whatever the case. And so to relieve some of the pressure, I now bring up something that you didn't do, just so that we can even the playing field and you're not superior over me. We will still remain equals because it's stuff you didn't do either. So don't come at me sideways like, all your T's are crossed, all your I's are dotted, because
Right.
they aren't. You know what I mean? So don't come at me like you're perfect when you got some unresolved things as well. You just happen to bring mine up and I didn't bring yours up. And a lot of times that happens because the other person is, for lack of a better term, more tolerable with the situation. So they're not bringing it up every time that something happens, but then they feel like the pressure's on them, so they want to bring it up now instead of just dealing with the issue on hand.
Right. Right. Well, thank you. That's what I had to say. And don't talk for 45 minutes. Like, that's my own.
Yes.
Look to be a conversation. So when someone's talking, when your spouse is talking for 45 minutes without you talking, like, you were right on point when you said that. Like, don't talk for 45 minutes. And I can't say anything.
Yes. It's a dialogue, not a dictation.
Yep. Very good.
Thank
Very
you, Carla. You're helping us.
Appreciate it. So anyone else that has, some information they want to chime in with, feel free to share it if you are on Facebook, or if you are calling in. Of course, those who are on Facebook, you can see it. And for those who are listening on Mix Station Radio, the number is 1-855-493-6499. And so we're of course in our scenario using trash. But how do you respond when you're trying to address it and then they give you a reason of why something happened, but you were just looking for them to just do whatever it was that you said, but they gave you a reason which you would probably deem an excuse?
And while y'all are calling in, let's talk about this diversion. Let's just decide when we're going to deal with things, because maybe if we decide when we're going to deal with issues, then we will not have to divert to the issue or another issue when we're in the hot seat, for lack of a better term.
Right.
So engaged couples, y'all listening to me? Let's decide when we're going to deal with a conflict. Are we going to deal with it that day? Are we going to deal with it the next day? Now, we're going to deal with it.
Right.
Or we're going to deal with it. But are we going to deal with it that day? Or we're going to deal with it the next day? Or we're going to wait 2 hours or whatever, so that it doesn't build up into frustration or build up into something that we can bring up later when another conflict arises.
Right. That's very important. And I agree, that diversion, it happens, and usually, to be honest, that diversion happens from a guilty person. Usually they know that they know that they were in the wrong, and so to, I guess, lessen the blow, or to take some of the I guess heat off of them, they will bring in, it's almost like, you in court and they saying everything they're saying. Well, you say, well, I want to bring in another piece of evidence. Now you want to change the case.
Yes.
Because now you want to introduce another piece of evidence that's going to take the focus to that evidence and take it off of, where it was on you. So that diversion does happen. But like you said, if we can establish that we're going to deal with issues, and to be truthful, you mentioned it a little earlier, communication is the real issue. And if we learn how to communicate properly, then we would learn how to present things in a manner where we can get a result, and it's not being presented as something that we are trying to, downplay you with. It's not about exposing you. It's about getting a result. There's a problem and we want it fixed. It's not about trying to make you a horrible person. We just want the situation to be better. We have another comment on social media. I say deal with the issue that day, even if it's not right at that moment because you're so upset. However, it needs to be addressed that day.
Yes, I can agree with that. There are some. I agree with that because that would be what I would want to do. But I believe also that there are some relationships that have to take some time because it just won't turn out good. Mm-hmm. So if you can deal with it that day, I think that is the best thing, because then you won't forget, or this feeling will be really real to you. And if you can take the emotions out of it, you can deal with it and you can get it resolved. But also, I feel if you have to wait because that's how your relationship deals with it, then you have to, because what you don't want to do is force someone to deal with it at that time when they're not ready.
Yeah, and that was going to be the thing that I was going to say. I think that the emotions is a major defining factor in that type of situation. If the emotions can be taken out of it and it can be a conversation and it can be a dialogue, then I think that that's fine. But if the emotions are too high and you're not going to be able to address it with tact, you're not going to be able to address it with not degrading your partner or whatever, then I think that you need to wait until you are able to control yourself better. Because if you allow your emotions to get the best of you, you're going to go off topic. And even if you don't go, the person you're talking to is going to go off topic, because it's going to go off of what you're saying into, who you're talking to like that. So yeah, that's important.
So today, guys, please, we hope we sparked some conversation. We hope we sparked you and your relationship to talk about these things, to think. And we want to remember that in fighting fair, you need to make sure it's worth it. You need to decide if it's a spirit or a character. Remove your emotions. Stick to the topic. Use effective communication, meaning you need to listen, hear, understand, and ask questions if you do not understand before you respond, or while you're responding. A question is a response. Have a dialogue, meaning you talk and they talk. You don't talk for an hour and then nobody knows what to say. And don't use words that hurt. Don't use words that hurt.
Good. So for those of you who don't have the book, 64 Tools for a Successful Relationship. It is available, and tonight's topic was one of the things that is addressed in the book, and it's something that can help you. It's a tool that you can use to allow your relationship to grow and to be stronger. So you can get more information about that from teambevins.com, and you will be able to find out how you can get a copy of that book for you.
Couples Corner with Team Bevins. We're grateful that you stopped by and shared your time with us tonight. We look forward to seeing you again here next week at 9 p.m. And feel free to share this on your page with any of your people who would benefit from this conversation. We're grateful that you shared your time with us. And now we gotta go, but we look forward to connecting with you again here on the Couples Corner with Team Bevins.
Have a great night, y'all.
All right, y'all. Be
Peace.
safe.